Illuminati, the all-seeing eye, and when they do this little like when they do this symbol, because a lot of in the media, I don't know if they're still doing that today in the land of the living, but I know what I experienced when I went down there. They call themselves the elites, and what it means is the elites of like the satanic kingdom, and they do this thing with the all-seeing eye. As you notice, in the past I had that all-seeing eye too, because I had to become one of them in order to come back and expose them, you see. So this wickedness, and for a while they're trying to keep me silent, but I'm like, wait a minute. Satan's a liar, because he just wants me to be silent, because we keep living in today's world, in the land of the living, and there's no justice anywhere. Like, where's the God of justice, right? It's because I kept silent all these years, but I'm not going to keep silent no more. But what goes on down there in Hollywood, I don't know if it's still going on today, because I don't want to accuse nobody, but what I saw, I pray that everybody out there repents, because the kingdom of heaven is at hand. In these they have lots of child trafficking rings, and they even have their own churches, but they're very satanic churches, and they do abominations. They sodomize each other. I'm not going to get into details because it's so traumatizing to what I saw and experienced down there. But the more power you have, the more fame you get, the more depraved things you have to do. So I don't know if they still do that today, like I said, but God our Father knows, God in heaven knows, the cloud of witnesses knows. So I pray, Heavenly Father, that if these things still go on out there, all of the world, all these elites, whatever they're trying to do like this, to be quiet, that you will bring exposure to them and bring swift justice to the children's lives that were sacrificed, the children that are, because they often, they were even like 3-year-olds, and then they're asking me like, can we go even like lower, meaning like, can we do baby? And it was just so disgusting, guys. This is why I'm so traumatized, because I'm like, oh, I can't believe, it's very traumatizing. I can't even talk about it because it's so nasty. But in the Illuminati world, Hollywood, if you're still doing that today, I pray that Lord Jesus Christ, Heavenly Father, that you apprehend these criminals and bring them to justice, the ones who sacrifice children, even in the government realm, the government officials, but I don't know about the land of the living, but I'm going to have to testify anyways, because this is what I saw. It's like this huge, massive, worldwide elites. They call themselves, and they children, they, sacrifice. It's just nasty, guys. I can't even, but anyways, I got to testify this so that there's truth and justice to be had in the land. All glory to our Father in heaven, our Lord Jesus.
The Illuminati is real, 100%. Trust me, I know. You hear me? I have been approached so many times, you dig? And that's one of the reasons of why, it took me a while to want to drop on a major, which I'm on my way to now, and I'm dropping a project called No One Kills. Right after this interview is over, you're gonna hear about it a lot. But yeah, I've been approached by the Illuminati at least 3 times in my life, which makes me petrified, because the things that come with that, it's humbling. It really is. It's scary. It's scary. In this game, you don't really work hard to be a superstar and successful. You get chose to. And when they choose you, you gotta do what they tell you to do, or bad things that happen to you. And that's facts. But now, I'm just not afraid no more. You heard me? And I'm ready to do what I gotta do. And I feel so great right now in my life to be able to kick ass. And the things that's so tempting that'll make your process faster to get where you need to go. It's so tempting to want to accept the things that the Illuminati present to you. It's tempting, bro. It really is. And it sucks that you really that it even took me this long to keep pumping and dropping mixtapes and doing this and doing that. For me to be able to surface back the way I'm surfacing right now, you know, by the grace of the universe and God, that it's actually going the way I need to go now. But I could have been where I was at, mighty bruh, if I would have accepted what was presented to me. And I didn't. So I became whatever, the pimp guy or this guy or that guy. I was, you know, the 6-month drug dealer. I was doing all these things because I was so afraid of what the Illuminati in the industry come with. And I'm not afraid no more. But yes, the Illuminati is real. And when they come at you, it's kind of hard to bargain the presentation that they come at you with, if that makes sense.
I now believe that in 2025, if you want to be seen all over the world, you want to be popular, you want people to come to you and ask to be your friend and stuff like that, I now know that this is coming from a place of lack and coming from a place of not feeling seen. Maybe you don't have the financial means that you want, but I fully believe that wanting to be famous and desiring and almost becoming desperate to be famous is like, it's a response to not adequately getting your needs met and wanting the excessive version of. And here's why I think this. I believe that people who have the true wealth, like who are ultra extremely wealthy, like billions and trillions of dollars, like basically money means nothing. You could basically at this point fund any type of experiment you want without the hands of the government, without anyone's acknowledgement. Like basically, there are people with that kind of money and they go underground. They don't want to be seen, y'all. Like they don't want to be famous. They don't want to be touring all over the place, pictures, videos, movies. They don't want that shit. Because once you truly become wealthy like that, your whole life, you want to hide it because you know that people are going to steal from you. It's inevitable. And this is why they have like, this is going to sound crazy, but this is why like the super ultra wealthy have like breeding rights and they breed with their own family, bro. I'm telling you, it's sick because they cannot trust anybody. When you get to have like a certain amount of wealth, where your daddy basically has experiments underground watching a whole entire, and there are people like this. They have the wealth to do whatever. I'm talking about they fund NASA privately. These are private individuals that put all their money in the pot to basically experiment on humanity as a whole. And this goes for, there's ultra wealthy all over this planet. There's ultra wealthy Chinese, ultra wealthy Americans, ultra wealthy Russians, like ultra wealthy Africans, everyone. There is ultra wealth everywhere. And sometimes we don't see these people. We're like, where are they? Like they just go missing. They're not missing. They're hiding from. And to be honest, no one's really going to talk about this because it sounds like conspiracy theories, and it's not. Why do you think as Americans, we put so much money, billions of dollars, trillions of dollars we pay in taxes, and we don't see it? Our roads are schools, like there's not enough tools to even teach our kids. We pay for that. I pay property taxes every damn year, and I don't know where it's going. I run into the same pothole almost every. When you vote, when you pay taxes, a lot of times we don't even see that as Americans. We don't see where it's going. The money is going to these underground ecosystems. You're thinking that everything is above, like, oh, the wealthy are here, we just got to find them. We're looking above. They're not above ground. They're below ground. They have palaces and kingdoms underground. There have been tunnels for centuries. Like centuries. We're thinking like, oh, like they started building this in maybe like the 18th century, but no, they're older than that. They're older than that. And if you look, every single city in the United States, like any major city in the United States, every single city, Seattle, Sacramento, Los Angeles, Denver, Colorado, there is an entire original city under the city. And everyone knows in New York, Paris, everywhere all over the planet, there are original cities underneath the city. Because through time, as sea levels rise, we move up. But what happens to the cities that we abandon below? People move right in. It's not just cobwebs and spiders and things like that who take over. It's people. It's the descendants of those founding fathers who created banks, who've had political power, you name it. They're all underground. They have access underground, and they make you sound like you crazy as hell because they don't want people to find.
Rockefeller connections to the Illuminati. Much of what we hear from the media is carefully curated distortions, shielding the elite from scrutiny. John D. Rockefeller, Sr., William H. Vanderbilt, and Jay Gould secretly met to plot against the public while publicly feigning rivalry. Rockefeller's connections extended to the Rothschild family, with his right-hand man John Archbold traveling overseas in the 1880s to establish secret business arrangements with them. The Rockefeller influence extended into politics. In 1904, Senator Penrose received $25,000, and Senator Bliss was given $100,000 via Standard Oil. One scholar lamented this corruption, writing, "The Standard Oil had done everything to the Pennsylvania legislature except refine it." When the Rockefellers wanted to build a controversial highway, they summoned Interior Secretary Stuart Udall to Nelson Rockefeller's apartment to persuade him. By 1968, Hubert Humphrey sought both David and Nelson Rockefeller for cabinet positions. The Rockefellers also initiated the concept of the World Trade Center in New York, using their cronies to push the project forward amid scandal. David Rockefeller's influence spanned continents. He traveled to Nigeria to visit the Emir of Kano and brought along his own professor of Egyptology during his trips to Egypt. Rockefeller's fascination with Egypt extended to his private collection of beetles, while his patronage underwrote America's leading Egyptologist, Dr. Charles Breasted, Illuminati rituals, and the Feast of the Beast. The connections among elite families converge at the infamous Feast of the Beast rituals. At these events, the 13 top Illuminati bloodlines gather, with Satan himself allegedly making an appearance. Beyond this grand gathering, the Illuminati families hold smaller rituals and meetings worldwide. Their councils of 9 and 13 regularly convene to issue directives to their subordinates. The Costellos and Mafia ties. One of the families that intermarried with the Van Dyne family was the Costellos. Frank Costello, who passed away in 1973, was the underworld boss of New York until Vito Genovese took control. Carlo Gambino succeeded Genovese until his death in 1976, after which Paul Castellano and the Gambino family took over. Today, Roosevelt, Rosie or Rose Gambino, leads the family, which has ties to the Eli Lilly Illuminati family through marriage. Frank Costello's network included Jerry Katina, Eddie Torres, former president of the Las Vegas Riviera Casino, and Gus Greenbaum, who managed casinos for Meyer Lansky. Costello's own roots trace back to Italy, where the family name was originally Cristillo. Lou Costello, a Hollywood legend unrelated to Frank, played a significant role in Dean Martin's early career. He funded Martin's nose job and introduced him to show business. However, their relationship soured after Martin ignored Costello at a casino and left him footing large bills. Lou's daughter, Carol Costello, later married Dean Martin's eldest son. Frank Costello's connections extended to the Rockefellers, Lucky Luciano, and other influential figures in the underworld. Frank Costello and his network of influence. Frank Costello exerted considerable control over New York City Mayor William O'Dwyer. Costello also owned Alliance Distributors, the sole American distributors for Whiteley Co. of Scotland, which produced the renowned King's Ransom Scotch and House of Lords Scotch. Unbeknownst to many Scotch drinkers, these beverages were imported through Costello's operations. Costello's influence extended into the oil industry as well. He partnered with Frank Erickson and young Texas oil tycoon Ray Ryan in at least one petroleum lease venture. Ryan, a friend of Dean Martin and godfather to Richie Martin, was deeply connected to the elite. His Mount Kenya Safari Club, known for its exclusivity, boasted members such as Winston Churchill and Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands. Ryan's mafia ties became evident when his Lincoln Continental was destroyed in a powerful explosion that temporarily knocked out power in parts of Palm Springs. The Rat Pack and their dark connections. Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop formed the infamous Rat Pack. All were linked to the Mafia, and some, like Sammy Davis Jr. and Peter Lawford, were reportedly involved in Satanism. In 1960, the group famously posed for a photograph outside the Sands Casino, commemorating their performances together. Dean Martin's connections reached beyond his Rat Pack companions. A photograph from 1954 shows him alongside Marilyn Monroe and Averell Harriman, a member of the Illuminati. Monroe herself was reportedly a monarch sexual slave for the elite and served as a presidential model for President John F. Kennedy, who was part of the Kennedy Illuminati family. Kennedy was frequently associated with the Rat Pack during his presidency. The Hollywood Reporter once described Martin as a hypnotically attractive, homegrown American monster. Born Dino Crocetti in Steubenville, Ohio, Martin grew up in a town notorious for gambling and prostitution. Steubenville was home to a white slavery ring that abducted women for brothels, run by mafia leader James Vincent Tripodi. A common saying among the town's youth was, "Learn to steal, learn to deal, or go to the mill." Dino started his career as a dealer at the Rex in Steubenville, managed by Cosmo Quattrone. His personal life, however, remained an enigma even to those closest to him. Jerry Lewis, his comedic partner, once remarked, "No one ever got to know him, not even Betty, his wife." Elite parties and hidden agendas. Dean Martin, along with his Rat Pack associates, frequently attended lavish parties at the Beverly Hills mansion of Herman Hoover, located at 606 North Bedford Drive. The property, formerly owned by the Vanderbilts, served as a hub for influential figures, including Mickey Cohen, Howard Hughes, General J. Wainwright, and James Roosevelt, FDR's son. Hoover's Cyro nightclub, followed by gatherings at his mansion, became a hotspot for the elite. In a controversial move, Martin planned to feature women trained as animals on the Dean Martin Show. He intended to appear on stage with a voluptuous woman dressed as a tiger on a leash, only for her to repeatedly insist she was not a girl, but a fellow. Despite NBC's reservations, Martin pushed the boundaries of entertainment norms. When Martin married Kathy Hawn in 1973, Frank Sinatra stood as his best man. As a wedding gift, Sinatra received a diamond-studded golden cigarette lighter engraved with an obscene message. Martin worked extensively for MGM Grand, which today stands as a pyramid in Las Vegas, reportedly designed with monarch programming themes. The interior design features elements from The Wizard of Oz, a common motif in mind control programming. Bob Hope and monarch programming. Bob Hope, a British MI6 agent during World War II, played a pivotal role in embedding hypnotic trigger words into mind-controlled soldiers. Following the war, Hope reportedly received his own mind-controlled sex slaves as a reward for his services. One of these slaves, who has since been deprogrammed, also worked for the Illuminati's Council of Seven. This slave was loaned by Hope to various figures, including Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, and even Richard Nixon. Her roles included serving as a courier and a sexual companion. Hope's involvement reflects the entertainment industry's long-standing ties to elite power structures. Throughout history, rulers have recognized the power of entertainment as a tool for control. From the Caesars to medieval monarchs, entertainment has been used to pacify and influence the masses. During World War II, the United States and the United Kingdom leveraged nearly every resource in the entertainment industry to support their war efforts. There have been numerous connections in this author's research regarding the Illuminati and CIA mind control, which trace back to the USO, the American military entertainment units that toured with servicemen. The story of how the USO was used to carry messages to mind-controlled agents and military personnel involves many names, including Quint Reynolds, Bruce Cabot, Joe E. Brown, Andy Devine, Candy Jones, Jessica Wilcox, and several lesser-known individuals such as Wheeler, who later became known as the programmer Dr. Black. Apparently, the military was already employing programmed killers to carry out deadly assignments. Bob Hope and the USO were used to deliver trigger words to these mind-controlled operatives. For many years, the British Empire, the world's foremost experts in espionage under the control of the Illuminati, has utilized certain professions for spying purposes. For example, postmaster generals have been employed as spies because they could control the secret surveillance of mail. A notable example is Benjamin Franklin, postmaster general for the American colonies, who served as an important spy for the Illuminati's British trading companies and the British government in the colonies. Likewise, who better to select than Bob Hope to transmit messages worldwide? Bob Hope was British, and MI6 trusted him implicitly. He possessed an exceptional ability to learn and deliver lines, skillfully constructing sentences with puns, double meanings, and even triple meanings. This talent made him an ideal cover for conveying hidden messages to Allied intelligence during the war. As the saying goes, if you want to keep a secret, the best place is out in the open. British and American intelligence agencies understand this well. Some of their greatest secrets are exposed where no one suspects them. Bob Hope, already a radio and movie star before World War II, received widespread publicity as he traveled extensively for the USO, entertaining military personnel. Though he was just an entertainer, he visited prominent leaders such as Roosevelt, Churchill, Eisenhower, Patton, and numerous military officials. Bob traveled all over the world to every front during the war, including England, Africa, the South Pacific, the East and West coasts of the United States, the Caribbean, and Panama. He could embed all sorts of signals within his jokes and speeches without raising suspicion. Under the guise of boosting morale as a comedian, Bob could go anywhere, and because he was always joking, no one took him seriously. In reality, Bob Hope was a courier, a bearer of coded messages. Sometimes these coded messages almost seemed to leap out when reviewing his wartime talks. MI6 and Military Intelligence Services Section BIA, under the supervision of London's W Board and the 20 Committee, oversaw the management of double agents, mind-controlled couriers, and mind-controlled spies. The British Special Intelligence Service, SIS, dealt extensively with various forms of mind control. The Tavistock Institute of Human Relations was part of SIS's mind control capabilities. Men like Eric Trist, a hypnotist and mind control expert affiliated with Tavistock, were willing to perform mind control on British civilians and military personnel. Over the last 45 years, perhaps the most common signal for couriers to meet was someone holding a bird in a cage or standing near a shop displaying bird cages, an obvious allusion to carrier pigeons. Consider the caption, "Speaking of wrens," with a cartoon from Bob Hope's book, I Never Left Home, New York Simon & Schuster, 1944, written during the middle of World War II. The cartoon depicts Bob chasing a girl holding a bird cage and saying, "Tweet, tweet, tweet." The hypnotic command is repeated 3 times. What seems like an innocent cartoon appears to be a signal indicating that Bob Hope was in charge of a flock of carrier pigeons, couriers. During a talk with soldiers in the war, Bob remarked, "In London, the bobbies caught a guy walking around in the fog with a bird cage giving the mating call, but the American consul got me." There is much more that could be written, perhaps entire books, but Americans need to understand that MI6, British intelligence, founded, trained, and continues to control American intelligence agencies. Remember, Canada entered World War II alongside Britain, and the British established one of their best secret agent training schools between Whitby and Oshawa, Ontario, in a location known as Intrepid Park. The agents referred to it as the camp or the farm. Today, the CIA has its own camp or farm known as Camp Peary, where mind control operations are carried out. The British named this facility British Security Coordination Special Training School No. 103, also called Hydra. Some referred to it as Camp X. When the war broke out, the American FBI, OSS, SOE, SIS, BSC, and the Canadian RCMP all sent personnel to be trained at the secret Camp X, hidden on Lake Ontario's North Shore across from the US-Canada border. The British SOE, Special Operations Executive, set up operations in New York City and directed activities from there during World War II. Returning to Frank Sinatra, a man known worldwide for his cruelty, he spent time visiting the Rockefellers, the European and American Rothschilds, and other powerful figures, including Bob Hope. Frank Sinatra served as the handler for Bob Hope's mind-controlled slaves, who sexually serviced men in the Rat Pack. In other words, Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin knew the cues, the trigger code words, to compel this slave to sexually serve them, especially Frank. Because Dean was aware of the Monarch programming, he had the audacity to bring a slave onto his show wearing a tiger outfit on a leash. During the obedience training of a sexual slave, an expensive collar is placed on them, and their mind control programming for all sexual alters from infancy onward is that they are cats. These slaves have cat alters, personalities known as spin kitten alters. When Dean Martin, as an older man, sexually pursued younger women like Andre Boyer, a 19-year-old student at UCLA, there is a strong possibility that Andre and others like her were under mind control. Frank Sinatra's parents were Natalie Dolly Delia Garavante from Genoa and Anthony Martin Sinatra from Catania, Sicily. His mother was a cigar-smoking, cruel, foul-mouthed woman. Dolly was a midwife and abortionist before abortion was legal. She did not always evade legal consequences for her illegal abortions. One notable occasion when she was hauled into court occurred on February 27, 1939, in a Hudson Special Sessions Court. Frank's parents were always financially well off, so Frank grew up as a child who never lacked money. He would share money with other kids if they agreed to be his friends. Frank was known as a lazy and mean boy as he grew up. By the age of 20, he still did not have a steady job and was living off his parents. At that point, Frank's mother decided to encourage him to pursue singing. Thanks to her influence, Frank secured some singing jobs and began making progress in life. After years of struggle, Tommy Dorsey helped launch Frank Sinatra's career by having him perform with his band. Tommy Dorsey and Frank's mother had a great relationship. Frank Sinatra admired Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, who was the boss of Murder, Inc. To digress briefly, the Illuminati often use the Mafia to carry out murders that lack formal approval from the Illuminati hierarchy. Approximately 30% of the Illuminati's dirty work is performed by the Mafia. The Illuminati maintain their own death squads, which are superior to the Mafia, but anyone seeking an assassination must usually obtain approval from one of the Illuminati councils. Often, however, it is easier for Illuminati members to put out unauthorized contracts, and the Mafia are frequently willing to make business deals for these hits. The Mafia are deeply intertwined with the occult, and some members are involved in rituals and mind control programming. However, there are Mafia members who are focused solely on business, similar to many in the Yakuza. These individuals are appalled by the heartless actions of the Illuminati, such as turning entire generations of young people into drug addicts. Some Mafia members hold a much higher code of honor than the generational Satanists. Frank Sinatra's hero, Bugsy, was closely associated with all the Mafia heads, including Charlie Lucky Luciano, who controlled Marilyn Monroe as a slave, and Frank Costello. The New Jersey underworld kingpin Willie Moretti, also known as Willie Moore, was Frank Sinatra's neighbor in Hasbrook Heights. Bugsy was a ruthless man, and Frank was utterly in awe of him, almost to the point of worship. The Illuminati initially relied on Bugsy and later on the Gambino family when they needed someone killed. Eventually, Bugsy fell out of favor with other Mafia chiefs and was assassinated by them. Frank Sinatra had a tendency to alienate people with his volatile temper. He alienated William Randolph Hearst Jr. at a party by engaging in a fight with him. Following the incident, the Hearst newspapers began giving Frank negative publicity. Frank's agent and friend George Evans flew to Hollywood, and through Marion Davies, who had been William Randolph Hearst's mistress for many years, managed to gain access to the ailing William Randolph Hearst. Senior Frank expressed genuine remorse and won over the elder Hearst. With the support of Marion Davies and Hearst Sr., Frank was able to overcome the negative orders issued by Hearst Jr. to the newspapers. After this reconciliation, Frank began receiving positive publicity once again. For those who need a reminder, the Hearst family is an Illuminati family. The Hearst Castle in California, now owned by the state of California as a park, continues to be used for rituals by the Illuminati hierarchy. Of special note is that Marion Davies was connected to the Van Cleve family. Another family intermarried with the Van Dyne family and the Costellos. In case the reader missed it in a previous article, a prominent member of the Van Dyne family, who led California's Teen Challenge, helped launch Billy Graham's ministry. This individual is both a member of the Illuminati and a Christian minister. William Randolph Hearst funded the first 3 years of Billy Graham's ministry. Several members of the Van Dyne bloodline in the Illuminati are also Christian ministers. Though I cannot reveal names, it is known that several people have escaped the Illuminati. Ultimately, it is clear that several Illuminati members from the Van Dyne bloodline played a role in establishing Billy Graham's large crusade ministry. Frank Sinatra rubbed shoulders with many members of the Illuminati. This does not necessarily mean he was a member himself. It is possible his mafia ties explain why he was well received by Illuminati kingpins. The Illuminati have a history of sharing their mind-controlled slaves with the mafia, even slaves who are themselves Illuminati members. However, the Illuminati always ensure they maintain final control over a slave's programming. One of the individuals who played drums with the Tommy Dorsey Band for a time was William Joseph Bryan Jr., also known as William Joseph Bryan or William Jennings Bryan III, among other aliases. Bryan was a CIA mind control programmer. During his time with the Air Force as Chief of Medical Survival Training, a covert brainwashing division, he specialized in programming individuals. Later, he established his own hypnotherapy institute on Sunset Strip in Hollywood, where he programmed actors and other individuals for the Illuminati. Bryan was responsible for programming Sirhan Sirhan to assassinate Robert Kennedy. He also hypnotized Albert DeSalvo. Following Bryan's death in the spring of 1977, the CIA confiscated all his files, including those stored in his home. Bryan was a 6'1.5" overweight, satanic priest affiliated with the Old Roman Catholic Church, a denomination with connections to both the CIA and the Illuminati. Bryan was a descendant of William Jennings Bryan, the Mason who famously defended the creationist perspective in the Scopes monkey trial. William J. Bryan Jr. was a frequent guest speaker in many fundamentalist churches in Southern California. It is intriguing that the Tommy Dorsey Band featured both Bryan and Frank Sinatra, as both would later be involved in satanic mind control operations. William J. Bryan also interacted with numerous judges, possibly using his legal expertise to arrange appointments with corrupt judges in need of training about the Illuminati's mind control programs. In his book titled The Chosen One: The Art of Jury Selection, Bryan taught techniques for using hypnosis on jurors to influence case outcomes. On the back cover, Bryan was described as follows. In addition, Dr. Bryan served as an electronics engineer in the Navy during World War II, was director of all medical survival training for the United States Air Force, and a leading expert on brainwashing. Bryan served as the technical director for Frank Sinatra's film The Manchurian Candidate. The movie was crafted to incite fear among Americans, suggesting that foreign enemies were utilizing mind control techniques. This narrative was intended to provide a cover story for the CIA and Illuminati's own trauma-based mind control experiments. Should their operations ever be uncovered, the movie would serve to justify their actions in the eyes of the public. Illuminati mind-controlled slaves were reportedly forced to watch The Manchurian Candidate to deepen their sense of helplessness. Frank Sinatra acquired the rights to adapt the book upon which the movie was based. The book's author, as far as is known, had only stumbled upon the Illuminati's covert activities. Sinatra suppressed the second release of The Manchurian Candidate, suggesting that the movie was a CIA operation designed both to obscure the truth and to intimidate the thousands of mind-controlled slaves they had created. This article has also elaborated on the Costello and Van Cleve families, which are branches of the Van Dyne lineage. Interestingly, the elite Bohemian Grove, a location used for satanic rituals for over 25 years, lists Joseph V. Costello Jr. and Peter Van Cleve as members. Peter Van Cleve is known to have stayed in the bungalow called Oz during his time at the Grove. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and I'll see you in our next video.